Smart cards are having a real moment, haven't they? My name is Kevin and at shopreme I work with retailers to scale and improve the self-checkout ecosystem, including Scan and Go, self-checkout kiosks, exit solutions, and smart cards. And smart cards are having a real moment because they promise faster trips, bigger baskets, and a more modern in-store experience while also enhancing self-checkout security. And what we see in live projects supports this direction. At the same time, different card concepts behave very differently once you add real shoppers, diverse assortments, and real operational constraints. And so over the next 15 minutes, we'll run through the current landscape and discuss practical ways to evaluate smart card systems before you commit. 15 minutes is tight, so I'll activate my rocket boosters and cover three things. First, hardware, fixed cards versus retrofit versus clip-on concepts, and scan-led versus vision-led item detection, including scale, computer vision, and sensor fusion loss prevention concepts. Second, what great looks like on the software and process side, especially around clean journeys and loss prevention that supports shoppers and employees. And third, what happens beyond checkout. Smart cards as a retail media surface on the store floor in front of the shelf and product. I'm not here to give you the one answer because I don't think that exists. I want to give you the right questions so you can choose the system that fits your stores, your operations, and your shoppers. So let's get started. As early as 1995, a patent described a mobile shopping cart that tracks items and then also displays the total price. So those guys were obviously ahead of their time. But since then, we've seen the rise of self-checkout kiosks, self-scanning on smartphones and professional scanners, autonomous stores, and better tooling for store colleagues via handheld devices. Retailers changed a lot in general too. So have hardware, connectivity, payment, customer experience design, and many other things. And 30 years later, we have everything we need to make smart card projects a success. The question is not if it works, the question is which approach works best for your reality. And for that, before we can compare feature lists, we need to classify cards. We evaluate smart cards along three dimensions. And the first dimension is form factor, because it shapes the start and end of the experience. You can have a fixed tablet card where card and tablet form one combined product. The benefit is a very direct flow because the screen is already there and the shopper can start right after unlocking. And here you usually exchange cards in your fleet. And then there are retrofit cards where you keep your existing cards and exchange components such as the handle. The screen remains on the card, but you avoid a full card replacement. And then the clip-on concept keeps the fleet untouched. The tablet stays in the store and mounts to standard cards. The advantage is the efficiency on capital side and scalability because if adoption rises, you simply add more tablets instead of more cards. The second dimension is item recognition, meaning how the basket is being built. And there are scan-led systems, which are the most straightforward, because shoppers can scan barcodes to add items, and it works across the full assortment from day one, and is easier to stabilize operationally. And then that's clearly recommended. And then there are vision-led systems that aim to recognize and add items automatically when they are placed in the basket. And when it works, magical, but when it fails, it can be very confusing for customers and costly for retailers because a single mismatch can erode the margin of an entire basket. And also because the training effort of the AI is significant. And from all we know, these systems are difficult to scale, so I will exclude them from the best part of the presentation. The third dimension is fraud detection. Scale-based approaches detect mismatches between scan events and weight changes, and that is very strong, but they need good calibration and tolerance logic to avoid false prompts. Vision-based approaches use cameras to detect that a customer did not place an item without scanning or label switching, and while you either help to guide shoppers back to a clean flow and increase spot check accuracy. And then sensor fusion combines cameras and scales to increase confidence and reduce blind spots, and it often enables fewer prompts because interventions can be tuned based on risk. And because there's this variety, our recommendation is to not evaluate smart cards as a single category. Classify first. That usually helps you to predict what will happen when you're pilot in the store with your shoppers, your assortment, and your operations. Now that we've classified them, we can look more closely at different hardware components. And because the hardware determines what the shopper does with their hands and what the store teams do every day, I would like to ask you to think now of your customers, your store colleagues, and your stores while I walk you through the different hardware options. And we start with screen orientation. Vertical and horizontal both work very well, but can create different interaction patterns. Vertical feels more smartphone-like, horizontal feels more billboard-like, and both can be strong for rich basket views. One question is if you want to pilot both at the same time, whether your software can reflow the same journey across orientations without losing clarity and without additional effort. Second, scanner placement and speed. And scanning is still the core action that can have a negative or positive effect on shoppers. So the scanner must be very reactive and reliable across the different code standards, as you will lose shoppers. Scanning performance is adoption. You can ask if the scanner is always on or button activated, if it is extractable for bulky item scanning, and the placement should allow for ergonomic scanning, because the scanner shouldn't just point straight up or to the sides of the card. And then docking and charging. So fixed cards usually use nested charging or charging via rails in lanes and create a very clean return flow. But keep in mind how you also store them and if there are constraints because of climate. But out there are excellent trolley shelter solutions by trolley providers. And clip-on cards, they charge at the station in the entrance zone and can be a very strong marketing element, but the return handling must be very well designed. The solution are return trolleys that are already charging devices in the checkout zone, and an employee simply rolls them back to the entrance zone of the store to bring back the devices. And then regarding battery, you don't want shoppers to start the trip with a depleted device. Hardware needs strong battery for real store usage and fast charging. And on the software side, you enforce thresholds, so no low battery devices are handed out. If you want to use camera-based loss prevention, you need one or more high-quality cameras, proper positioning, and enough computing power to process events in real time, ideally via dedicated AI chips. And then scales, they can be powerful for mismatch detection, but if a scale is used beyond security, it can become an operational cost that grows with your fleet size. Imagine a price-defining scale for fruits and vegetables. In every cart, times 50 cards or more per store, times hundreds or thousands of stores. The mandatory calibration effort can be a significant OpEx burden, so we don't recommend using it for anything other than security. Hardware choices impact the customer journey and operations. So if the physical flow is wrong, the software will not save you. But if the physical flow is right, the software can really scale it. And talking about it, let's look at software as a deciding factor in any modern project. You can put the same hardware into two stores and get two different outcomes. One feels premium and runs smoothly, the other becomes a support project. The difference is in software and process design. Because the best approach is very simple. One integration, many cards. At shopreme, we follow an ecosystem approach. So after one integration, the different self-checkout methods and hardware platforms in our ecosystem become essentially plug and play. So you can test different hardware also in other stores without duplicating core IT work, and the journey adjusts to the underlying hardware and available components, but the integration stays the same. That means you can pilot clip-on cards in one store, fixed cards in another, a horizontal screen here, a vertical screen there, camera-based loss prevention in one format, and scale-based in another. There's also a few things that you should expect from a software vendor. First, they should have a white label approach. Every screen needs to screen your retail brand. Then a management console with monitoring, analytics, and alerting. And to avoid deal-breaking price mismatches, smart card providers should not calculate prices on promotions on their own, but integrate with your single source of truth for pricing. And they should support your retail media content ideas through integration with promotions, coupons, shopping lists, recipes, and recommendations. And there are also four fundamentals you should ask every software vendor to provide. The first, stable basket logic and guidance. Smart cards are live baskets. Items are constantly added, removed and corrected. Second, fast exception handling, because exceptions are normal. Damaged barcodes, double scans, items removed, and shoppers making mistakes. The software needs to guide those shoppers back to a clean flow and explain what happened and what to do next. And also offline tolerance, because stores are not data centers, because connectivity can drop, and if the cart becomes useless during shopping because of network issues, adoption will not scale as fast. So even if offline, customers must be able to fill their basket. And for high retention rates, very close to our hearts, UX quality. Because let's not forget that shoppers are spoiled by the best applications on their phones. They do not compare your smart card to other smart cards in the market. They compare it to the best apps on their phone every day. And so the interfaces need to be very reactive. Taps and scans must feel instant. And every screen needs to be intuitive from day one without any training. UI and UX also support loss prevention because the clear guidance prevents unintentional scans or misscans and reduces the need for intervention. For checkout and payment, there are two models. Either customers can pay at the existing checkout, and the card hands over the basket via QR code, and the shopper pays at the SCO or at the staffed register. And that's a great starting point because it keeps familiar steps aligned easily with fiscal, store, and receipt processes. The trade-off is that shoppers may still have to queue. Or they pay on device by tapping a contactless card or wallet. Then payment is processed by the payment service provider, and the shopper receives a digital receipt via app, email, or QR. And this is the best case for experience and efficiency, but it works best when you have checkout gates with receipt validation. This really cuts queues because smart card baskets are usually very large baskets. So when those baskets are paid on device, you remove those high-value transactions from the queue, cutting the queue for everyone. Circling back to loss prevention, it's as much a software as well as a hardware strategy. And so we recommend to start with the baseline controls, registered customers only. Then you add risk-based controls, so adding spot checks based on signals rather than random selection, and signals can be suspicious patterns, items removed, discount stickers usage, or other risk flags. And enable staff with the right tools. Only notify store teams when assistance is required, such as an age check, a spot check, or help requests. And any employee app should accelerate the check by displaying waiting time, guiding the check, and highlighting high-risk items. And let's finally talk about retail media. Because smart cards unlock valuable retail media directly on the store floor during decision moments. And shoppers are already in the purchasing mood and mode. And you can measure them. Impressions, interactions, conversions to purchase. Brands thirst for more granular data in brick and mortar sales. And there's basically no limitation on formats. Weekly offers, clips, contextual prompts, recommendations, recipes, you name it. The software vendor provides the canvas and you can paint the perfect self-checkout picture. But as a retailer, you should own 100% of the retail media revenue, the data, and the governance. Nonetheless, any software vendor must provide capabilities to manage campaigns in the cart backend or connect to your existing retail media network platform via APIs. Now, lastly, in-the navigation can support retail media and improve speed and conversion, but there are prerequisites, such as store maps, reliable product locations, and supporting technologies like Bluetooth or selected ESLs that can enable navigation to the electronic shelf labels and LED flashing to help shoppers find items faster. As you can see, the topic is quite vast for 15 minutes, but let's recall. You can already see that more retailers are actively exploring this tech because of stronger security concepts, retail media revenue potential, and its effect on operations. Real-world deployments already show, in well-executed projects, smart cards can work exceptionally well, with adoption rates well in the double digits during pilots across hardware platforms. If you're looking to implement smart cards, ask the right questions on hardware and software and choose your form factor, how the basket is built, your payment model, and your loss prevention layer. And ask vendors how they make features work, not just what the features are. What happens when your shoppers make mistakes, when connectivity drops, or when devices fail. And on the software side, Run one integration into your existing landscape should let you choose the best self-checkout mix for your stores, your customers, your employees, and your processes.